about expanding freedom, not restricting it, not restricting it. To that end, I want again to salute all of you who have gathered here with us and so many more across the country who helped achieve this victory. Know your power. Take satisfaction. None of this would have happened without your mobilization, your advocacy, which not only expanded freedom for LGBTQ community, but for all Americans. Thank you for your patriotism to each and every one of you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Our outside maneuvering only takes us so far. Inside maneuvering only takes us so far. It was your outside, your patience, your persistence. Well, you weren't always so patient. Your impatience, your persistence, and your patriotism got the job done. Thank you for the personal difference you have made in this fight. After the Obergefell decision was announced, Jim Obergefell declared to an ecstatic crowd outside the Supreme Court, he said this: "Today's ruling from the Supreme Court affirms what millions across this country already know to be true in our hearts. Our love is equal." It is a thrill that, protected by this landmark new law, millions more devoted partners will be able to shed a tear of joy, as they make their wedding vows, celebrate the union with ones that they love, and live happily and safely ever after with the person they love. People say to me, "Oh, this is easy for you because you're from San Francisco," and that's an applause line. It's easy for you because you're from San Francisco and people are so tolerant there. And I said, tolerance has nothing to do with it. That is a condescending word to us when it comes to our community in San Francisco. This is about respect. This is about taking pride. And it's about time that we do so at the federal level. So congratulations to all of you who played a role in this. Congratulations to all the weddings that will take place, as the leader said, the children who will be protected on this euphoric triumph. And may God continue to bless the United States of America as we continue to expand freedom. This is a day for great pride, thanks to all of you. Thanks to all of you. Thank
Please welcome to the stage Oscar and Grammy-winning international recording artist, Sam Smith.
Boy, you know I'm not good at a one-night stand, that I still need love, baby, understand. These nights never seem to go to plan, but I don't want you to leave. Will you hold my hand? No, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This is love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Why am I so emotional? No, it's not a good look, and some self-control. Deep down I know this never was, but you can lay with me so it doesn't hurt. And oh, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This ain't love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. Oh, no, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This is love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. And no, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. This is love, it's clear to see. But darling, stay with me. But darling, stay with me. Oh, darling, stay with me.
Please welcome longtime LGBTQI plus ally and advocate, Cyndi Lauper.
How you doing? Okay. Well, this time, love wins. Show me a smile then, and don't be unhappy. Can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you're taking all you can bear, you call me up because you know I'll be there. Your true color shine through. all the people. Let them show your true colors, your true colors are beautiful. Come on. Thank you. Thank
Look, I just think that the good news is that as more and more Americans come to understand what this is all about is a simple proposition. Who do you love? Who do you love? And will you be loyal to the person you love? And that's what people are finding out is what all marriages at their root are about. Whether they're marriages of lesbians or gay men or heterosexual.
Please welcome Gina and Heidi Norton-Smith.
Good afternoon. We are Gina and Heidi Norton-Smith. 26 years ago, Heidi was pregnant with our first child. We were overjoyed and terrified. Although we had been as a committed couple for 6 years, the state wouldn't let us legally marry. That meant we couldn't be sure we would both be recognized as the parents of our children, to guarantee that if something were to happen to Heidi, our children wouldn't be taken away. We realized to access the protections our family needed, we had to sue the state. We became one of the 7 plaintiff couples in Goodridge versus Massachusetts Department of Public Health. The case that led to marriage equality in Massachusetts and ultimately the United States. Literally, the day that the court validated that our love was equal, we got married.
Our families, friends, and particularly our beloved sons, sustained us through that lawsuit, and we drew the strength of those who came before us. It takes the efforts of many to bend the arc of history toward justice. Even now, there are so many places where people in our community are under attack. The work will continue, but look at how far we've come. The law that President Biden signs today will make people across the country safer, more secure, and less alone. From our family to all of you, thank you for fighting for our equal humanity and dignity, for our right to love and be loved, and for our marriage.
"10 years ago, this president spoke from his heart when he said that love is love. His heartfelt support and advocacy through the years helped make this moment possible. So we're here to say thank you to President Biden for signing the Respect for Marriage Act into law and for years of support for families like ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the President of the United States and Dr. Jill Biden, accompanied by the Vice President of the United States and Mr. Douglas Emhoff.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Let me start by thanking Heidi and Gina for your courage and your leadership and your devotion to our country. President Biden, members of our cabinet, members of Congress, and my fellow Americans, please have a seat. I often reflect on the week of Valentine's Day 2004, when I had the honor to stand in San Francisco City Hall and perform some of our country's first marriages of same-sex couples. I saw tears of joy that day as people celebrated basic human rights, the right to be recognized as a family, the right to be with the person you love, whether at a military graduation, a hospital bedside, or a naturalization ceremony. I also think back to June 28th, 2013, when after we won the fight to strike down Proposition 8, and I had the privilege and honor to pronounce my friends Chris Perry and Sandy Steer spouses for life. Again, at San Francisco City Hall, and this time it was on the Harvey Milk balcony. And Chris and Sandy are here today with their 4 sons, Elliot, Frank, Spencer, and Tom. And of course, then, let us think about today, December 13, 2022, a day when, thanks to Democrats and Republicans, we finally protect marriage rights in federal law. For millions of LGBTQI+ Americans and interracial couples, this is a victory, and it is part of a larger fight. The Dobbs decision reminds us that fundamental rights are interconnected, including the right to marry who you love, the right to access contraception, and the right to make decisions about your own body. So, to continue to protect fundamental rights, let us continue to stand together, because that is the beauty of the coalition assembled here today, who fight for equality as activists and allies and parents and neighbors and young leaders. And as the great Harvey Milk once said, I quote, "Rights are won only by those who make their voices heard." And because you made your voices heard, marriages are more secure, and Joe Biden is our president. A president who elevated LGBTQI+ leaders to every level of our administration, who fights for the safety and freedom and dignity of all people every single day. And so, with pride, let us welcome the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Hello, hello, hello. Today's a good day. A day America takes a vital step toward equality, toward liberty and justice, not just for some, but for everyone. Everyone. Toward creating a nation where decency, dignity, and love are recognized, honored, and protected. Today, I sign the Respect for Marriage Act into law. Deciding whether to marry, who to marry, is one of the most profound decisions a person can make. And as I've said before, and some of you might remember, on a certain TV show 10 years ago, I got in trouble. Marriage, I mean this with all my heart, marriage is a simple proposition. Who do you love? And will you be loyal to that person you love? It's not more complicated than that. And the law recognizes that everyone should have the right to answer those questions for themselves without the government interference. It also secures the federal rights, protections that come with marriage. Like when your loved one gets sick and you've legally recognized as a next of kin. For most of our nation's history, we denied interracial couples and same-sex couples from these protections. We failed to treat them with equal dignity and respect. And now, the law requires that interracial marriage and same-sex marriage must be recognized as legal in every state in the nation. I want to thank all of you for being here today, for being part of this important movement. Jill, Kamala, Doug, my cabinet members, including Pete Buttigieg. And a special thanks to our performers, Joy, Sam, and Cindy. Look, you know, and the gay man's choir in Washington, D.C., gay men's marriage choir. And the members of Congress here today, in the Senate, this bipartisan vote simply would not have happened without the leadership and persistence of a real hero, Tammy Baldwin, Senator Tammy Baldwin. And thank you, Susan Collins, who did not rest until this bill got done. And the leaders Schumer, Senators Portman, Sinema, Tillis, Feinstein, Booker. And in the House, this would not have happened, as much wouldn't happen without Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker. Equality and dignity for the LGBT community has always been her North Star. From her first speech on the House floor, pledging to end AIDS and signaling the bill and signing the bill today, all that time span. Madam Speaker, on behalf of all Americans, thank you for this and so much more for your decades of service. We also owe our special thanks to representatives like Jerry Nadler, who first introduced the Respect for Marriage Act a decade ago, David Cicilline, and Sharice Davids as leaders of the Equality Caucus, and so many others, many of whom are here today, who did what was right. Standing behind me are dozens of plaintiffs. Up there, don't jump. Dozens of plaintiffs who fought for marriage equality through the years, as well as families whose existence would not be possible without the bonds of love and this law honors and protects. Look, we're here today to celebrate their courage and everyone who made the day possible. Courage that led to progress we've seen over the decades, progress that gives us hope that every generation will continue our journey toward a more perfect union. On this day, I think of Mildred and Richard Loving, a young woman of color and a young white man. They met as family friends and eventually fell in love. In 1958, they drove to Washington, D.C. to get married because the relationship was illegal in Virginia. They went back home. 5 weeks later, police burst into their house and arrested them for the crime of being married. The crime of being married. They were sentenced to 1 year in prison unless they agreed to leave Virginia and not return for 25 years. They appealed the sentence, and it took till 9 years later, in 1967, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled unanimously. It declared that laws against interracial marriage were unconstitutional. Today, we're joined by one of the lawyers who represented the Lovings and the widow of their other lawyer that took the fight to the highest court because they believed their love should not be criminalized but should be honored and respected. As Mildred Loving said, previous generations were, quote, bitterly divided over something that should have been so clear and right. So clear and right. No one could put it better. And later, Mildred fought something else that's so clear and right. Marriage equality for LGBTQ Americans. And today, we celebrate our progress from Hawaii, the first state to declare that denying marriage of same-sex couples is unconstitutional, to Massachusetts, the first state to legalize marriage equality for couples like Gina and Heidi, who you just heard from. To all the advocates, excuse me, who worked to block or overturn state bans. As you heard earlier, Vice President Harris took a stand as Attorney General in California. Talked earlier. Others also spoke out. One of them was my son, Beau Biden, who was Attorney General of the state of Delaware, who filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court in favor of marriage equality and pushed to add gender identity protections into the law as well. Today, remember Edie Windsor and her partner, Thea. In 1965, they met in their 30s. They fell in love, secretly got engaged, and Edie wore an engagement pin rather than a ring to avoid questions. They had 40 wonderful years together. Then Thea was diagnosed with MS, and Edie became her full-time caregiver. They went to Canada. They got married. As Edie would say, don't postpone joy. And then Thea died soon after, giving Edie, grieving Edie, learned, since their marriage wasn't legally recognized, she would have to pay $360,000 in estate taxes. Viewed as strangers rather than partners for 4 decades. Simply unconscionable and unacceptable. So Edie took her case to the Supreme Court and she won. Before Edie passed away, she fell in love again at age 87. Finally experienced the joy and dignity of legally recognized marriage to Judith. Judith is here today with us. Judith, are you up there? Also here today are many of the 16 plaintiffs in the same-sex marriage case that helped bring us here. They were subjected to intense public scrutiny and harassment, physical threats and violence for years as their cases made their way through the courts. Jim couldn't be here today, but he and I spoke on that day in June 2015 when he was on the steps of the United States Supreme Court. I called him right after that historic victory, a victory not just for the plaintiffs, but for the whole country, and I would argue for the world. My fellow Americans, the road to this moment has been long, but those who believe in equality and justice, you never gave up. Many of you standing on the South Lawn here. So many of you put your relationships on the line, your jobs on the line, your lives on the line to fight for the law I'm about to sign. For me and the entire nation, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's one thing for the Supreme Court to rule on a case, but it's another thing entirely if elected representatives of the people to take a vote on the floor of the United States Congress and say loudly and clearly, love is love, right is right, justice is justice. These things are fundamental things that America thinks matter. So sadly, we must also acknowledge another reason we're here. Congress is acting because an extreme Supreme Court has stripped away the right important to millions of Americans that existed for half a century. The Dobbs decision, the court's extreme conservative majority overturned Roe v. Wade and the right to choose. In his concurring opinion, Justice Thomas went even further, and he wrote the following, quote, "We should reconsider all the court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, Obergefell. That means he thinks we should reconsider whether you got the right to access to contraception. And yes, we should reconsider whether you have the right to marry who you love. And that's not only the challenge ahead. When a person can be married in the morning and thrown out of a restaurant for being gay in the afternoon, this is still wrong. Wrong. And that's why the people you heard speak today continue to fight to pass the Equality Act. When hospitals, libraries, and community centers are threatened and intimidated, excuse me, because they support LGBTQ children and families, we have to speak out. We must stop the hate and violence, like we just saw in Colorado Springs, where a place of acceptance and celebration was targeted for violence and terror. We need to challenge the hundreds of callous and cynical laws introduced in the states targeting transgender children, terrifying families, and criminalizing doctors who give children the care they need. We have to protect these children so they know they are loved, and that we will stand up for them and say they can seek for themselves. Folks, racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia, they're all connected. But the antidote to hate is love. This law and the love it defends strike a blow against hate in all its forms. And that's why this law matters to every single American, no matter who you are or who you love. This shouldn't be about conservative or liberal, red or blue. No, this is about realizing the promise of the Declaration of Independence, a promise rooted in a sacred and secular beliefs, a promise that we're all created equal. We're all entitled to what Abraham Lincoln called an open field and a fair chance. You know, there's nothing more decent, more dignified, more American that we're about what we're doing here today. It's about who we are as a nation. It's about the substance of our laws. It's about being true to the best of the soul of America. Decency, dignity, love. Let me close with something else that happened on the same day that Congress sent me this bill. Brittany Griner was finally on her way home. I got to know her incredible wife as we worked to bring Brittany home from her unjust imprisonment in Russia. We were together in the Oval Office, her wife and I. We heard Brittany's voice on the phone when she was freed. And we addressed the nation together. When we did that, Brittany's wife said, quote, "Today, my family is whole. My fellow Americans, that all-consuming, life-altering, love and commitment, that's marriage. Thank you to everyone on the hard-fought victory generations in the making. It's been a long road, but we got it done. We're going to continue the work ahead, I promise you. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. And now, let me sign the Respect for Marriage Act into law." All right, here.
Yes, I did.
She was that day. Right, she was that day.
Here we go. All right.
drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Give yourself prudence and love your friends. Subway kid, rejoice your truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my youth. A different law is not sin. Believe capital H I am. Hey, I love my life, I love this record, and me, I'm on it from labor, yes. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hurt yourself and regret, just love yourself and yourself. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Baby, I was born this way, born this way. There ain't no other way, baby, I was born, I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way.
There must be a higher love down in the heart or hidden in the stars above. Without it, life is a wasted time. Look inside your heart and I look inside mine. Things look so bad everywhere in this whole world. What is fair? We walk the line and try to see, falling behind what could be. Oh, bring me a higher love. Bring me a higher love. Oh, bring me a higher love. Where's that higher love? I keep thinking of. Bring me higher love. Bring me higher love. And we're just hanging on, facing our fear and standing out there alone. Oh, yeah, and it's real to me. There must be someone who's feeling for me. Things look so bad everywhere in this whole world. What is fair? We walk the line and try to see, falling behind, and what could be. Oh, bring me a higher love. I'm all up. Bring me a higher love. Oh, bring me a higher love. It's that higher love I keep thinking of. Bring me higher love. Bring me higher love. Bring me higher
Dr. Jill Biden, accompanied by the Vice President of the United States and